Yo, 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 what is good, YouTube? It is your boy, Make America Lit, back with another video. In today's video, I'm kind of actually doing a new series on the channel. I really don't even know what I'm going to title this, but I'm just basically going to be discussing, NBA teams, and their future and stuff like that. I don't want to call it like a review or a recap of the season, because I'm not going to really be talking too much about the season that just passed. It's basically just going to be talking about, what these teams should be doing going forward. I'm still coming up with a name for this series, but, right now I'll just, come up with some name just for each individual episode. And if I could come up with like a catchy name or something like that, I'll probably go ahead and name that this series. But for right now, I'm just going to, focus on the video. In our first episode or whatever, or video, we're going to be discussing the Dallas Mavericks. Now, I do plan to do every NBA team, Lord willing, I'll do every NBA team that's in the NBA. I will be starting off with the teams that didn't make the playoffs and stuff like that, and then working my way into the play-in teams, and then, of course, the playoff, contenders and playoff teams that either are in the playoff. Well, I'll start with playoff teams that lost first, first round, losses and stuff, and then work my way to teams that are still competing in the playoffs, because obviously this season is still going. So it's kind of hard to really say what they should do going forward if they're still currently playing and contending for a championship. So it would be kind of pointless to try to, say what this team should do or that team should do if they're still in, the playoffs, still possibly, winning a championship. Now, if you follow my channel, then you know that, you probably already know I'm a Mavericks fan. Unfortunately, a Cowboys fan as well, too. Dallas through and through, even though I'm not from Dallas, but I've always been a Cowboys and a Mavericks fan for, my whole life. It's always been my squad. Kansas State fan, too, as well. As far as college go, even though I really don't mess with college sports too much in recent years, but, back when I used to follow college football and stuff like that, I was a K-State fan as well, too. Shout out to my boy Michael Beasley. But anyway, this video we're going to be starting off with last season. Now, bear with me. I'm going to try to be, I don't know what's the word I'm looking for, but I'm going to try not to be all over the place with this video. I don't have no script written or anything like how these other YouTubers do. I kind of just wing it, just go with the flow of the video and, what I want to discuss and how I want to say it. I don't have like some, 5-page essay, video paragraphs and stuff like that typed up or written up for you guys, like some type of robot or AI, nah, I'm not doing that. Off the top of the dome, just me discussing and stuff. So let's get into it. The first thing I want to start off with is with last season with the Dallas Mavericks. We did make the Western Conference Finals. We made the playoffs. Beat the Utah Jazz in the first round. Shocked the world by beating the Phoenix Suns in a 7-game series. And then even made the Western Conference Finals, where we did lose in 5 games to the Golden State Warriors. I think one of the biggest issues that we had coming into this current season was that a lot of people kind of overrated that season. And I keep trying to tell people over and over and over again, I'm not discrediting the guys, what they did last season. We had a hell of a run. It was amazing watching that Phoenix series. It was amazing watching the Utah Jazz series as well too. But realistically, we just wanted to make the playoffs. We didn't think that we would be making the Western Conference Finals. We didn't think we'd be making the NBA Finals. Coming into that season last year, it was just about making the playoffs, and really it was about getting out of the first round. Even if we lost to the Suns in the second round, we would have been okay with that. Even if we lost to the Suns in Game 7, that would have still been a W for us, because we had finally gotten out of the first round. Luka had finally gotten out of the first round, after losing to the Clippers 2 years in a row. We got our guys some playoff experience, not just a one-round, you know, one and done, but, you know, 1 round and then 2 round up in the ante. They got the, you know, to really feel the playoff experience and intensity. And you look on that team, there really is nobody that we could say that had that experience. You know, you go down the roster, Bullock, no. Dorian Finney-Smith, no. Jalen Brunson, no. Dwight Powell, no. Maxi Kleber, no. Like, you go down that entire Dallas roster, and there's not a single person that can say that they've had like a deep playoff run or have been on a team with, you know, a contender or anything like that. The only person is Luka, and he was winning championships at like 15, 16 years old overseas. So nobody's really too concerned about Luka getting playoff experience. Yeah, sure, you want him to get NBA playoff experience, but he's played high intensity games. He's played games where, you know, everything is on the line and a championship is on the line and stuff like that. He's won multiple championships overseas. So, you know, I wasn't really too concerned about getting him playoff experience because he's shined. You know, his very first playoff game, his debut, he dropped like 42 points on the Clippers. So it's like, it's not too much about getting him experience. It's about getting the people around him experience so that they aren't going to crumble when they're in the spotlight, when they're on that stage. We needed a Brunson to show out. We needed a Spencer Dinwiddie to show out. We needed Kleber to show out, a Dorian Finney-Smith to show out. You know, a Kleber or, you know, Bertans or whoever. We need these guys to show out. You know what I'm saying? Because we know what we're getting from Luka. We know what Luka's going to do. And, you know, that was part of the problem as well, too. We never really had a solid second option. Like, Jalen Brunson was supposed to be that second option. But if you look at a lot of those games, it was kind of a toss-up of who's going to show up that night. Some nights it was Brunson going off. Some nights it was Dinwiddie going off. Some nights you get Kleber, maybe Dorian Finney-Smith, maybe Reggie Bullock, but for every championship team or contender at least, you have your 1A and you have your 2A, or you have your 1A and your 1B. You know who that second guy is in LA, right? If LeBron is 1A, then you know that Anthony Davis is, you know, 1B or 2A, you know? In, you know, Milwaukee, if Giannis is 1A, then you know that Middleton is 2A. You know what I'm saying? Like, every team has that solid second option that you know, oh, well, if you got Steph, then you know you got Clay. You know? If you got this person, then you know you got that person. If you got Kawhi, then you know you got PG. If you got this person, you know you got that person. You know, if you got DeMar, then you know you got Zach LaVine. Not saying that these dudes are championship contenders or anything like that, but I'm just saying every team that's like trying to compete has their number one and their number two. And the Mavs really didn't have a solid number two, because a solid number two is going to show up day in and day out. Like, I'm not saying you can't have bad games, but you can't have bad stretches, not in the playoffs, if you expect them to be a championship contender. You look at these playoff series and look at the teams that are dominating. Look at the Nuggets, you know, look at the 76ers, look at the Lakers. Like, their number two isn't taking games off or, you know, shit in the bed 2-3 games in a row, having like 2-3 game streaks of shooting and playing poorly or playing bad. Like, you have to like really be that second option. And that was one of the issues with the Mavericks, and we've seen that throughout Luka's entire tenure with us, is that, you know, if he has a bad game, and that's really what the second option does, because when Luka or LeBron has a bad game, they can lean on AD to have a good game and carry them. When Giannis has a bad game, he can lean on Middleton or Drew to hold him down. You know, like when he went down with the injury and it was resting him, Drew and Middleton was carrying that Milwaukee team. Like, I was really expecting them to like drop and seed, and they was still winning games, you know. When Embiid goes down, you know, Harden and Maxey are expected to step up. If Jokic goes down or, you know, can't play or is being rested, guess what? Murray is expected to step up. And you know what I mean? Like, and then Michael Porter Jr. is expected to step up. We didn't have that. There was no stepping up. It was like you literally couldn't afford for Luka to have a bad game. And I don't see how you expect to win a championship on a roster that's built around just one dude having, because it's just not possible. Jordan had bad games. It may be far and few in between, but Jordan has had bad games. LeBron has had bad games. Kobe, diehard Kobe fan, Kobe's had bad games. Dirk has had bad games. Tim Duncan has had bad games. No matter who you look at, Shaq, Giannis, KD, Braun, Steph, Clay, whoever your favorite player is, he's had bad games. Like, that's gonna happen. But you can't sit here and tell a player that, yo, no matter what, we need you to go out and get 40 to 50 points every time. Otherwise, we're probably not going to win. And that's basically what we were asking Luka to do. And that's the reason why we just weren't going to realistically win. Like, maybe if the cards fell in our favor and we just got lucky, you know, maybe somebody on the Warriors got injured, you know, knock on wood, you know, Steph or somebody got injured, maybe we could have beat them, you know, maybe. But even then, you know, their bench, if you look at that game that we won, I think it was game 4. Sorry about the sirens in the background. Some shit is on fire. But even in game 4, when we beat them, I believe it was game 4, right? We beat them and we were up like damn near 20 points, like 23 points, something like that. My memory's bad. I don't know exactly, but I know we were up like 16, 18 points. It was definitely above 20 points with like 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter. You know, okay, this game is over. We up 20, it's only 4 minutes left. Bring the bench players in. We bring the bench in. The Warriors bring their bench in. And guess what? They closed the fucking gap down to like 12 points or 10 points or some shit with 4 minutes left to go. We couldn't even rest our starters for 4 minutes against their bench. Our bench against their bench. In less than 4 minutes, they managed to cut the lead from 20-something to like 10 or 12 points in 4 minutes. And then we still had to bring our starters back out to close out the rest of that fourth quarter just to get one win. One win. So realistically, no, we weren't going to win with that team at all. Realistically, we weren't. We just weren't, you know? Now, moving on, we go into the offseason. We lose Brunson. Now, I'm not going to go on the tirade and go back and forth. We've heard all the bullshit with Brunson. We've heard the bullshit from the Knicks side, Brunson's side. We've heard the bullshit from Mark Cuban's side and the Mavs side. Whatever. It doesn't matter. Brunson is gone. He's gone. You know, it is what it is. We get Wood, Christian Wood from the Rockets, which I like that, you know, acquisition. He is a decent scorer. You know what I'm saying? In my head, I'm thinking, oh, we get Christian Wood, we slide him into that 4 position, and then we get a decent center that can rebound. We don't even need a center that can score. If we get a center that can just rebound and get stops at the rim, get some blocks here and there, and rebound the ball, pull down 9 to 10 boards a game, and just protect the rim. That's all we need you to do. Run some pick and roll bullshit. We'll feed you some lobs or something. You'll get like 4 or 6 points a game. You know, just, hey, protect the rim, board some shit, and you're good. You're not going to, you know, concern ourselves with nothing else. You're not the focal part of the offense. You don't even need to shoot. You know what I'm saying? You don't even need to shoot. And we could play Woods next to him at the 4 and then slide Dorian Finney-Smith to the 3 because he's our best wing defender anyway, you know what I'm saying? Slide Dinwiddie to the 2 and then Luka at the 1, and we bring Bullock off of the bench, you know, which, increases our defense because now we actually have, instead of Bullock and Dorian Finney-Smith starting, you know, we can then slide Bullock and Tim Hardaway Jr. when he comes back to the bench. It works out for us. You know what I'm saying? That's what my thought process was. But that's not what happened. We didn't make any real roster moves in the offseason. And then they don't pay Brunson, but then decide to overpay a 34-year-old JaVale McGee. And I thought JaVale McGee was a good acquisition, just strictly for what he did to us in that Phoenix series. You know, we got horsed by everybody. Aiden made us look like, you know, Aiden put like a little baby, a can or jar of baby food next to Dwight Powell. And Kleber, he just went ape shit, just gobbling up rebounds. And we all know Ayton is kind of soft. Like, yeah, he's decent, but he's realistically Ayton is soft. But he made us look like fucking third graders. Then you had JaVale McGee come in for spurts, and he's just rebounding the shit out of everything. He's putting another little jar of baby food down there for us, making us look like fucking third graders, right? And then you even had fucking third string Bismack Biyombo, who most of y'all, if you're a casual fan, don't even know who the fuck Bismack Biyombo is. But he comes in and he's looking like fucking Prime Matumbo, and he's putting down a little fucking jar of baby food and just out rebounding everything and grabbing boards and shit. And like, I'm looking at Dwight Powell just like, yo, my great grandmother could have out rebounded Dwight Powell, and she's fucking dead, bro. Rest in peace, Granny. You know what I'm saying? But you know, you can't be serious. Dwight Powell, and he's playing starter minutes. He's playing 20 plus minutes a game in the playoffs, and you're telling me that we're contenders? Oh yeah, nah, man. Whoever was running that organization, they was smoking some good. Yo, wherever Lamar Odom was at, smoking crack, like Stephen A. Smith said. Yo, that's who was ever running that team was smoking crack, bro. There is no planet, there is no multiverse or ulterior universe, alternative universe, whatever you want to call that shit in the Marvel universe. There is no planet or parallel universe or dimension where Dwight Powell is a starter on a championship caliber team, bro. Sorry, it's just not happening, bro. Sorry, it's just not. So that's what we dealt with in the offseason. We take one step forward, you know, and then we take one step back. You know, we get Wood, which is one step forward, but then we take one step back by overpaying McGee. And you got to think from a fan perspective that the Mavs organization or front office, their actual, you know, thought process or idea that the solution to our problem of not being able to grab a single fucking rebound was to overpay 34-year-old JaVale McGee. That's crazy, right? Like, just sit there and think of that for a second. Like, yo, who can we get? Yo, DeMarcus Cousins, fuck him, right? Like, and we don't know what he could do, but DeMarcus Cousins probably would have played for the fucking vet minimum for a chance to ring chase and play decent minutes. And and keep in mind, and this is one thing I want y'all to understand. We overpaid 34-year-old JaVale McGee, and it would have been one thing if we did that and played him. But the man played 8 minutes per game and only played 42 fucking games this season. So what the fuck did we pay him for? And then keep in mind that the Mavs also promised him a starting job, because that was one of the requirements for him signing with us, is that he wanted the starting position. He wanted to start. Even though the motherfucker know he got asthma and all this other bullshit, he wants to start. Only played 42 games, and then only played 8 minutes per game anyway. Like, that money could have just went literally anywhere else. Anywhere else. Bringing in another wing, another defender, a 3-and-D guy, or anything. A veteran backup point guard that could run the offense when Luka's on the bench or whatever, or when Dinwiddie is on the bench. You know, a spot-up shooter. Anything would have been better than paying JaVale McGee. Then there's also the fact that we didn't even get Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is in fucking Shandong Dong, wherever the fuck, China or Taiwan, whatever the fuck he's at, getting like 80 rebounds and shit and dropping like 89 points or whatever in some fucking, you know, I don't know what the fuck, Shandong Kong, whatever league that he plays in overseas. Why didn't we pay Dwight Howard? I would have gladly given that money to Dwight Howard. Hell, Dwight Howard would have probably played for half that amount just to stay in the NBA. Like, you know what I'm saying? But no, that thought process didn't even come across the Dallas Mavericks organization. It's like, nah, we like 34-year-old JaVale McGee, you know? Then we come into the season now, right? Because that's the off season. Then we make our way into the season. And the season is just, you know, bad defense, awful defense, injuries galore, which I can't even be mad at this team for being injured just because we know that the entire NBA was hurt and injured. A lot of freak accidents or freak injuries. You know, every team dealt with injuries. I don't think it was a single team that didn't deal with injuries. Lakers dealt with injuries. Nuggets dealt with injuries. Pelicans lost Zion. Clippers injuries. Milwaukee injuries. Chicago still no Lonzo. Who else? I'm trying to think of just playoff calibers. Miami Heat. The Heat was damn near playing high schoolers or college dudes, bro. It was like when the COVID shit hit and motherfuckers was signing G Leaguers and they was signing niggas that had been retired for like 2 years. Like, I'm pretty sure somebody signed Mario Chalmers to a 2-week or 2-way contract or some shit during that COVID spike. Like, what the fuck? Chalmers? Y'all niggas signed Chalmers? Y'all had Chalmers out here playing? Like, that's how bad the Heat was. That the Heat was actually pulling G League niggas up. Like, yo, bro, like, yo, what you do? They was calling niggas up that been retired for like 4 years. Like, yo, Lamar Odom, yo, like, you can you piss clean? Like, can you get a clean piss test? Cause yo, like, we need somebody. We need somebody, bro. Like, the Heat was just like every other day. The Heat starting lineup was out with injuries, bro. So I'm not really mad at the Mavs being injured. Everybody was injured. That's just the modern day NBA, bro. Like, they're gonna be injured. It is what it is. That's part of the game. It's part of any sport that you play. Football, basketball, you know, hockey, baseball, whatever sport you play, injuries happen. That's part of playing sports, you know. But then we go from that to now we're overworking Luka because, again, they put another mediocre ass roster around Luka. You know what I'm saying? Even with the addition of Wood, you know, which I thought he could be that second option, because you got to think that we replaced Brunson, and I really don't remember what Brunson's numbers were, but I'm gonna say 18 points per game and like 5 rebounds and like 6 assists, somewhere around there, right? Or 5 assists, 4 assists maybe, somewhere around that 4 to 5 rebounds and 4 to 5 assists, right? And like around 18 points, right? We replaced that with like Wood, who was also putting up like 18 points per game and 10 rebounds with like, I want to say like 2 assists or 3 assists, somewhere around that ballpark or whatever. So technically we replaced him with somebody who wasn't as good of a playmaker with Brunson, even though Brunson wasn't that great of a playmaker. He held us down. He created looks for other people when Dinwiddie and Luka wasn't, and we were thankful for that. You know what I'm saying? Because we did need that from Brunson. We replaced that with somebody who was damn near giving us 20 and 10, you know, on the boards as well, helping with the rebounds and stuff. And Luka was still being overworked. I won't even talk about the coaching, because we already know what it is with the whole coaching thing with Jason Kidd. We won't even get into the coaching, you know. But the overworking of Luka, you know, Luka had to drop a 60-point triple-double to beat the New York Knicks, who at the time was like playing like shit, because this was like around November or December, somewhere at the start of the season, where the Knicks wasn't really at the top of the rankings. They weren't no top 4 seed, top 5, top 6 seed. They was like, you know, struggling, trying to get things together, and somehow it took a 60-point triple-double in overtime to beat the Knicks, and we thought we were contenders. We thought that it was realistic that the Mavs would repeat and go back to the Western Conference Finals. That's what I'm talking about when I say delusional. Okay? Then after that, Luka had to drop 50 points to beat the San Antonio Spurs. 50 points. You know, when you talk about just a team just being shit, this right here is the definition, because the Spurs, like, come on, bro, it's the Spurs. Like, a historic organization, a really great organization. Nothing but good things to say about the Spurs, but right now they suck. They suck badly. And we get it. They're going to suck because they're rebuilding. It is what it is. Everybody knows that the Spurs, the Pistons, the Trailblazers, the Rockets, these teams are rebuilding. Nobody expects these teams to be in the playoffs, the play-ins, or anything like that. They're rebuilding. They're trying to, acquire, assets and picks and stuff like that so they can rebuild their organization. Cool, that's fine. But you can't tell me that you are a contender and you need Luka to drop 50 to beat the Spurs. Like, I get it's the NBA. Everybody's great players, but not the Spurs, bro. No, not the Spurs. Not this year. No, not the Spurs. Then you go into 2023, right? We go into 2023 just melting down completely, playing like shit. A lot of people tried to say that we played like shit after the Kyrie trade, after trading for Kyrie. But no, you're wrong. If you actually followed the Mavs and you was actually watching the games, we were losing bullshit-ass close games, the games that we should be winning from January all the way up to that trade, honestly. We were losing bullshit games, dropping in seed and going from like 4th seed, dropping all the way down to 6th seed, well before Kyrie was like ever really introduced. Now, obviously, with the West being how, close it was with the parity and stuff like that, the 3rd seed through like the 9th seed, I think it was, or the 3rd seed through the 8th seed, that shit would switch every single night. So if the Mavs won today and then the Clippers lost, that shit, we would jump from like the 7th seed up to the 3rd seed, or jump from the 7th seed to the 4th seed, and then the 4th seed would drop all the way down to the 9th seed, and then the 6th seed would flop with the 5th seed. So any given night, you know what I'm saying, the seeds were jumping, flipping, switching and stuff like that. And I recognize that. Sure, we all recognize that. So that's not, oh man, like you did so bad. It's not like saying that we lost like 80 games in a row and that's why we dropped from like 4th seed all the way down. Like, no. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was just that how close the games were. And even if you go online right now and you look at what the seedings were, the 1 through the 4 or the 1 through the 5, like, there's not that much of a difference. It's probably like maybe a 3 or 4 game difference between the 1st seed all the way down to like the 5th seed. It's probably like maybe less than that. It's probably about 5 to 4 game difference, between the 1st seed and the 5th seed. So that should tell you how close of a race it was in the West this year. And I told people there would be a bloodbath this year. We seen, last year we seen so many injuries, and that was part of the reason why we overachieved. The Clippers didn't have Kawhi. They lost PG for a chunk of the season from like December all the way to like late January or February with that injury. The Pelicans, of course, didn't have Zion, and then again this year they don't have Zion. Losing, getting Brandon Ingram getting hurt and stuff like that. The Lakers, AD constantly, I call him always disabled. AD constantly injured. Then on top of that, you have LeBron getting hurt, which, hurt that team even more. Denver with no Michael Porter Jr. and no Jamal Murray, that, hurt them as well, too. I mean, you notice that with the addition of these players, a lot of teams are much better. Lakers went from like 11th seed, even though they played kind of bad this season and they needed that trade to kind of bolster their roster or whatever. They went from 11th seed last year to 7th seed this year. The Nuggets went from 6th seed last year to, 1st seed in the West this year. The Clippers went from making the 8th seed, which technically speaking, they would have made the playoffs even without Kawhi and with PG missing. If the play-in tournament wasn't a thing, they would have been the 8th seed last year. They went from 8th to 4th? No, 8th to 4th or 5th, I think. I honestly don't remember what seed they are. I think they 5th though, right? Because the Suns are 4th seed, or maybe I got it backwards. Maybe the Suns is 4th and the Clippers are 5th. But either way, they went from like 8th seed, making the playoffs without Kawhi and, or making the play-ins. And then, of course, they probably would have made the playoffs if PG didn't get COVID and couldn't play in the play-in game. But I'm getting sidetracked. The point is, we overworked Luka, and Luka shouldn't have to drop 60-point triple-doubles and 50-point games to beat the Spurs and the Knicks. The meltdown that occurred from January through February, losing bullshit games that we were supposed to win, dropping and seeding all the way down to the 6th seed and then the 7th seed, then the 8th seed, and then finally the Kyrie trade. And people, this is the thing that I think a lot of people get confused. I think a lot of people believe that The Kyrie trade was supposed to, you know, put us in win now mode. And personally, I don't think the Kyrie trade was a win now move. I think the Kyrie trade was a foundation move of, okay, so we got Luka, a top 5 player in the NBA right now, and then now we have Kyrie, who is, you know, depending on who you ask, a top 10 player or a top 5 point guard. And even if you don't want to say he's top 5 or top 10, he's a top 15 player. There's no way you're going to name 15 players that are better than Kyrie Irving right now this year. You know, he's still a top 15, top 20, top 10 player, depending on who you ask. So, and he's still a top PG or shooting guard, if you want to call him a shooting guard, in the league, right? So, you know, you have that along with Luka. I think that was just supposed to build a foundation, you know what I'm saying? For the future anyway, a foundation of how they're going to move forward. Now you got 2 pieces. Now you just need a 3rd piece to kind of bolster and kind of make your own kind of big 3, if you will. And then, you know, moving on, talking about, you know, the best case scenario going forward with this organization. First things first, I think that, you know, the Mavericks are going to have to wait until, you know, the draft lottery to see where that first round pick actually lands. If it's a top 10 pick, then obviously the Mavericks get to keep that pick. You know, if it's anything under 10, which means 11th or lower, 12, 13, 14, whatever, that pick then goes to the New York Knicks, which would be, you know, the worst case scenario. Best case scenario is that we keep the pick. Well, really the best case scenario is that it's a top 3 pick, in my opinion. Really a top 2 pick. If we could somehow jump to top 2, top 3, even top 5, I think that pick becomes very valuable. At a top 10 pick, you know, in my opinion, I think we just draft somebody and keep them. Or, you know, possibly trade the pick if we can get a starting caliber center, which I'm not really sure, you know, we're getting that with that pick, you know, even though this year's draft is pretty decent. You know, obviously, if we somehow luck into the first pick or the second pick, then, you know, we grab, obviously, Wembanyama and we ride it out. In my opinion, we don't trade that pick or whatever. Or, you know, we get the second pick, we draft Scoot Henderson, and because we already got a guard and Kyrie and Luka, then obviously we flip Scoot Henderson to a team that needs him. You know what I'm saying? And in that scenario, I think we could get a decent, you know, haul or whatever for him, because Scoot Henderson obviously isn't going to make like an immediate impact on a lottery or low, you know, caliber team or anything like that. But he is going to be somebody that, you know, people can draft and build around. So, and then because we have 2 guards already, we don't need a 3rd guard, you know. So, you know, I think that's really the best case scenario for the Mavericks at this point. Worst case scenario is that we fall out of the top 10. You know, we get the pick and it's 11th pick. Like, even worse. Like, if it's not top 10, then I hope that pick is like 30th or 25 or something that's not even going to be useful for the Knicks. The absolute worst case scenario is that the pick is the 11th pick and the Knicks get, like, you know, a lottery pick, which kind of sucks, you know, because they had a good year, made the playoffs, are likely to make it out of the first round. Not sure when this video is going to be uploaded, but, you know, they are currently winning, I believe. Let me check the score really quickly. They're currently beating the New York Knicks they're currently beating the Cleveland Cavaliers 88-80. 9 minutes to go in the 4th quarter. So at the time of this video that I'm filming this, the Knicks are currently winning, which could possibly be an elimination game for the Cavaliers. So if they do win this game, then even more, that proves my point even more that it's even worse for us, because then that means that not only did they make the playoffs, they made it into the second round of the playoffs, but then they're also going to get a lottery pick on top of that. That's the just absolute worst case scenario for the Mavs. You know what I'm saying? Now moving on to the off season, I think once we find out where the balls drop, you know, as far as the lottery balls, pick selection or whatever, pause, because that sounded crazy, then we can get into, like, you know, what potential offseason moves that this team should make going forward, you know, and stuff like that. You know, looking at the players that are coming off the books, players that are coming off the books are going to be Kyrie. He's coming off the books. You know, he's a free agent, unrestricted free agent at that, which means he can go wherever he wants. But I do think that he's going to sign with the Mavs, in my opinion. Then we have Christian Wood, who's also going to be unrestricted. You have Dwight Powell, Justin Holiday, Markieff Morris, Theo Pinson, and Franklin Ntilikina. Now, everybody else is under contract. So Luka's under contract. He's still here. Tim Hardaway Jr., Davis Bertans, Maxi Kleber, Reggie Bullock, JaVale McGee, Josh Green, and Jaden Harden, which is our core, you know, lineup is going to still be under contract. Kyrie and Wood being the only two people that are part of that core, you know, lineup and stuff like that. I guess you could kind of say Holiday because he played some decent minutes for us too, but he's not going to really be missed in my opinion. Like, he didn't really play that great in the small time that he did play, and I felt like we should have been playing guys like Josh Green and Jaden Hardy more, but whatever. You know, that's just a whole, again, goes back to the whole coaching thing or whatever. So, you know, looking who's coming off the books, people are, you know, concerned saying that, that we traded Dorian Finney-Smith and Dinwiddie to get 1 year Kyrie and stuff like that. For starters, I'm not really too sure the league is, you know, really big on Kyrie at this point. I mean, he came here and was here for like 2 months, 2.5 months, and we had no problems with him, none whatsoever. He came in, played. There was even games or streaks where Kyrie was playing better than Luka, you know. So, and I think Kyrie will be a more better leader. And I know that's crazy hearing that about Kyrie Irving of all people, but I think Kyrie, as far as being on the court, I think Kyrie is going to be more of a leader, basically, versus Luka. Like, I don't feel like Luka, I love him. I really do. I love Luka to death, man, but, like, he just complains a lot. He's constantly bitching to the refs. He's like complaining about calls, not getting back on defense. Team is playing 4 versus 5 because he's like laying down on the floor arguing with the refs because he got fouled or there was no call. You know, you are the superstar for the team, which means you have to, you know, try to at least be the leader. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that he's a leader. There are star and superstar players that just aren't leaders. You know, and Kyrie has been notoriously known, or, you know, a lot of people say that Kyrie isn't the leader, you know, that, you know, LeBron was the leader of those teams and stuff like that, that Kyrie is, you know, like even people try to say about the same thing about KD, like KD's not the leader, he's not that guy, like he's the number one option, yeah, he goes out and gets you 30, 40 or whatever and goes crazy and he's unguardable and stuff like that, but he's not that vocal leader. You know, you look at like the dudes like LeBron, the dudes like Kobe, Jordan, the dudes like Draymond Green. Those are like those vocal leaders that you need in your locker room and stuff, you know. Now, it's crazy to say that I think Kyrie can be that, but I do think Kyrie can do that. You know, like I said, on the court, flawless. You know, he played great, and like I said, in a lot of games, he played better than Luka a lot of times. So, with that being said, I think he comes back. I think he likes the situation in Dallas. He's playing with a top 5 player in Luka and a young talent. You know, so Kyrie isn't really expected to come in and drop 50 or 40 or anything like that. Like, Kyrie can come in and give you 25 and, you know, watch Luka do, like, the majority of the heavy lifting and stuff. It's kind of like Brunson's situation in the Knicks, where it's like, Kyrie ain't expected to drop 30 and drop, like, 6 to 7 assists and stuff. Like, it's like, yo, Kyrie, Luka will handle the playmaking. Luka will, you know, run the offense and stuff. We just need you to come out and just get buckets. That's it. Come in here and just give us 25. You know, everybody else will handle everything else. We'll figure out the defense as we acquire more pieces and stuff like that. But we just need you to come in and drop 25. You know, I think that's going to be the best situation that Kyrie finds, unless he can find a way to the Lakers, which is the only other place he really wants to play is the Lakers with LeBron again. So, I mean, the only way I see that happening is if we sign and trade him. And the Lakers aren't going to give us anybody that we would want. You know, they're not going to give up Reeves. They're not going to give up Vanderbilt. And that's pretty much the only people that we would want. Like, I mean, I can't really see us really trading Kyrie for anybody else on that Lakers roster that isn't Vanderbilt or Austin Reeves, in my opinion. And really, I would only really want Vanderbilt. Maybe Hachimura, but they're not giving up Rui Hachimura. They're not giving up Vanderbilt. They're not giving up any of those guys because those are the key guys. Those are the guys that are the key reasons to why they're winning games and why they've had the best record since the trade deadline in the NBA. Like, they've gone on a tear with those guys that they traded for. So, no, I don't see them trading any of those dudes, not even for Kyrie Irving. And that's the only people that I really think Dallas would even want. I don't really consider anybody else look really valuable to us. Maybe Mo Bamba, maybe, but even then, it's like not for Kyrie Irving, nah. So, yeah, man, like I think Kyrie is going to stay in Dallas. You know, unless there's some crazy move that he makes, you know, like randomly going to like Orlando or, you know, OKC or something, like just some out of the blue, just like out of nowhere, middle of fucking nowhere type of move that nobody's seen coming. I pretty much have Kyrie staying in Dallas. Again, you know, we have some dudes coming off the books. The only person that I could really see us trying to keep, I don't really see anybody that here that we should be trying to keep. Maybe Powell if he's going to be on the vet minimum, because I know, you know, emotionally what he means to this organization and to the team and the fans. Like, he's the longest tenured Mavericks on the team currently, so I know a lot of people like Dwight Powell and want to see him around, but like as a piece for winning, yeah, man, Dwight Powell, if he's not taking the vet minimum, we don't need Dwight Powell back. That's just my opinion. As a Mavs fan, we do not need Dwight Powell back if he's not going to be playing on the vet minimum. Same thing for Markieff Morris. Ntilikina, we barely played him. You know, I think he could be decent, but he just doesn't really get to play, so there's really no... Same thing with Theo Pinson. I don't even know why he's even on the roster. He's basically the younger version of Udonis Haslem. Dude averages like 50 claps per game and like 5 hugs and like 5 high fives and like 3 assisted water bottles a game. He's basically a glorified cheerleader. Like, and I mean, Theo Pinson is vibes. Don't get me wrong. Like, if you know the players on your team, you know, okay, like Theo is one of those guys that he's the vibe guy. You know what I'm saying? He's good vibes. I don't have nothing against him, but like, dude doesn't really play, and when he does play, he isn't like anything special in my opinion. But I mean, I'm not saying I don't want to see him thrive, but I just don't see the point of having 4 to 5 people on this roster that isn't contributing at all, that we could be, you know, playing somebody or signing somebody that could possibly contribute or something. We need as many rotations, because we're not going to get, you know, ring chasing star, you know, role players or anything like how the Lakers were getting, or how the Miami Heat were getting, or how the Warriors were getting with that bench depth or whatever, or the Clippers were getting. We're not going to get that here in Dallas. You know, even with Luka and Kyrie playing, we're not going to get that here. So we need every roster spot to be valuable and to be used accordingly, you know, towards winning. Not 3, 4, 5, 6 dudes at the end of the bench who are in warm-ups not playing, you know. So no. Wood, I don't think Wood is coming back, and I wouldn't blame him if he didn't want to come back after the whole start of the season bullshit with Jason Kidd and not playing him and stuff like that. You know, I don't blame Wood for not wanting to come back. And then even then, I think Wood is probably going to want a payday that we can't really afford to give him. So, you know, Wood is probably gone, re-sign Kyrie. And then, you know, after that, depending on how the draft lottery goes, now we're looking at trades. We're looking at trying to move Bertans and possibly trying to move Tim Hardaway. I mean, honestly, I think we need to keep Bullock, because Bullock is really the only other wing defender that we have. Like, you know, Hardy as well too, but I like Josh Green and Hardy as young guys that we need to develop. The same way we developed Brunson, the same way we developed Dorian Finney-Smith. This organization has shown that they can develop they're guys. They can develop young talent. You know, they just need the chance to actually thrive and, you know, develop, you know, in the system. So I think if we keep Josh Green, Hardy, you know, unfortunately McGee as well too as a backup. Kleber, great addition if he's healthy. Bullock, obviously our best, you know, perimeter defender. And then I think we need to just move on from Bertans and Tim Hardaway. If we could try to move those guys, and then maybe depending on how the draft lottery goes, go out and get a, you know, a rim protector center, somebody who can actually rebound the ball and stuff. You know, I think this team could be back in the playoffs. I'm not saying that we're going to be a championship contending team, but I do think that we could be back in the playoff race and back in making playoff runs and stuff like that. Realistically, I think this team is still like 2 years away from really being like putting together a roster to really compete for a championship. And I don't mean like, oh, they're playoff favorites, oh, they're a top 4 seed or a top 5 seed, top 6 seed. I mean really being favorites to win a championship. I think we're still like you know, like 2-3 seasons away, and there's nothing wrong with that. Luka's still 24. Kyrie's only 31. Kyrie has like at least another 3 years of solid basketball left in him, barring any major crazy injuries. Kyrie's going to play high-level basketball for at least another 2 to 3 years. Luka's only 24. He hasn't even entered his true prime yet. So, you know, looking at those things and the ages and stuff like that, and then you add in Josh Green and Hardy being young, and then potentially, if we keep this first-round pick that we get this year being young or turning it into somebody else, I think within 2 years we can put together a team that can actually compete for a ring. But this whole throwing together some bullshit team like ragtag role players who can't do shit but catch and shoot, I don't think that's going to win anything for us. You know, we're going to live by the 3 and die by the 3, and more times than not, we're going to die by the 3. And we basically are the 2015 Rockets. I said this last year. We're basically the 2015 Rockets. Yeah, James Harden is Luka, you know, or Luka is James Harden, and then you add all of those role players who all they could do, Trevor Ariza, Tucker, all those dudes who all they could do is just catch and shoot threes and play defense. That's basically what we had in Dallas, and that's basically the same reason why the Rockets lost. I think they had like one of the worst shooting performances from 3 ever back in like whenever that was, 2016, 2007. Except we don't have a Chris Paul or Russell Westbrook. I mean, now we have Kyrie, so I guess we really are the Rockets. But, you know, up until that point, I was always saying that we were basically the 2015, 2016 Rockets. You know, that's literally what we were. You know, just depending on this one superstar player. And that's clearly not that. That will get you through the regular season. Why? Because teams aren't game planning specifically for you. If you are a rival or you might be a potential playoff matchup, they game plan against you. Like the Celtics are game planning against the 76ers. The 76ers are game planning against the Milwaukee Bucks. You know what I'm saying? They're game planning against these people because they know that they might potentially run into them in the playoffs. So if I want to make it to the finals, I'm probably going to have to go through the Celtics or the Bucks or the 76ers. I want to be able to play them to the best of my ability. Same thing with the West. Unless you are a real playoff contender, okay, well, I got to play the Warriors like as if this is a 7-game series. I got to play the Nuggets like this is a 7-game series because I need to know what's going to work and what's not going to work. I'm going to play them hard. Everybody else is just like, yo, I'm just trying to win games. We just trying to win games. It don't matter. I'm not like keying in on you and trying to target you like this is game 7 of the, you know, Western Conference Finals or something. So those regular season games, it don't really mean anything. You can easily coast with just James Harden or Luka Doncic on your team and coast into the playoffs as like a 6 or 7 or even 8 seed, right? But what happens once you get into the playoffs and that's all you have? You are going to get cooked in the 7-game series where they're keying in on players and matchups and they know how to isolate dudes and target dudes and stuff like that. It's not going to work. You know, it's just honestly not going to work. That's just the truth of the matter. So I think that we need to take these next 2 years, right? because Luka's still going to be under contract for 4 years. Kyrie, if he signs with us, probably is going to sign for a minimum of at least 3 years, right? 3 plus maybe a 1-year player option or something like that. Something similar to that, right? I don't really see him signing for anything less than that, maybe just straight up 4 years, just because he's going to be like 35, so this is going to be his last time getting a serious payday. Because Kyrie, I don't think Kyrie's going to be able to hold up and play until he's like 37, 38, like a CP3. Because CP3's game's not really relying on being quick or athleticism. It's just, you know, playmaking, being a floor general, whatever. You know, Kyrie kind of needs his quickness. He can still shoot. You know, he can still, still have handles. Even at 34, 35, he's still going to have his ability to dribble the ball. That's not going to magically disappear. But his first step is going to go a little bit. He's not going to be as fast, So, I think this is going to be his last time getting a real serious big payday. So I think he's going to want at least a 3-year to a 4-year contract, and then after that, wherever it falls is wherever it falls, So if we, like I said, we're gonna have Luka for another 4 years, unless he asks for a trade. We're gonna have Kyrie if he signs. That's at least another 3 years of Kyrie. I think that we can build those 2 years. These next 2 years are going to be very important for the Mavs' future. So going forward, I think they need to just go ahead and try to build. I think that in 2025, we can be serious title contenders. If this front office takes these next 2 years to actually build a legitimate roster around them and not just trying to throw bullshit role players together, trying to just win now mode and just getting clapped in the playoffs every year. I don't think that's the solution. That's just my opinion. Let me know in the comments what you guys think, man. What do you think that the Mavericks should do? What do you think? What do you think they're going to do going forward? It's been your boy Make America Lit. Please be sure to drop a like, comment, and subscribe for more content. I'm out, guys. Peace.